13 gallons of water per person per day. That is what the people of Cape Town, South Africa had to do to survive their drought. How did they change their lives? What did they do in order to change? And what did they do in order to prevent day zero from happening? Today's video, we're going to be discussing it from a prepper's perspective. Hey guys, Time Preparedness, welcome back to the channel. I love basing my preps on events that have happened in the past. Whether that be the Great Depression, whether that be a hyperinflation scenario like in Venezuela, Lebanon, or like the 13 gallons of water day zero event that happened down in Cape Town, South Africa. Now this event happened a few years back, but it starts years before that. See, Cape Town, South Africa relies heavily on a reservoir, and that reservoir did not get the water it needed for multiple years. 3, 4, 5, 6 years of a drought. That reservoir ain't going nowhere. It ain't filling up, and it keeps dropping day by day by day. So the people that were in charge of it started looking at it and they said, ooh, we're running out of water. Full pool is 100% and we're at 30%. Of that 30%, the 10% mark, the water is undrinkable. Now a lot of people are gonna watch this video and say, that would never happen here. But yet, every year, some state is in a drought. California's been in a drought for 15 years now. South Carolina, about 10 years ago, we had a drought where the lakes almost shriveled up. Places go in droughts. And unlike America, when we are in a drought condition, Cape Town actually did something about it. So again, they were in a drought-like condition. They've been in drought-like conditions for 5 years now, and the reservoir was going dry. What to do, what to do? They sat back and they said, whew, people are using hundreds of gallons of water per day, and at this level, we will run out of water within a few months. We cannot keep doing this. So instead, they said, okay, we need to limit the amount of water that a person uses per day. They limited it one time, limited it the second time, finally getting down to 13 gallons of water per person per day. When you think of it, most people are supposed to drink a gallon of water per day. Fantastic, now you're down to 12. The average toilet uses 1.5 to 2 gallons of water per flush. Well, if it's 12, that's 6. If it's 1.5, then that's maybe like 7, maybe 8, maybe 9 toilet trips a day. But you still gotta have water for cooking, for cleaning, for showering, for washing your vehicle, for mowing or watering your lawn, for watering your plants. All of that water has to come from somewhere, and that is part of the 13 gallons you get per day. So one way that the government did this was implementing, obviously, the restrictions, but also publicly shaming people that went above that limit. So I watched out in California during their wildfires a couple months ago where the normal person understood the water restrictions. California said, hey, we are on fire. We need to use all the water we have in the taps to put out this fire. And most people said, yep, cool, gotcha. But then the rich celebrities said, yeah, that rule don't apply to us. We're rich, we're famous, we're billionaires, we're on cover of magazines. It doesn't apply to us. We got pools to fill up. We got water sprinklers on our grasses, right? We have to still look good during the fires. And I watched one that was using 300,000 gallons of water. It's some movie star, some actor somewhere. 300,000 gallons of water in a month. Water that could have been used for the fire. Cape Town did something different. They publicly shamed people if they went above the water restrictions. So when you get your water bill every month, it says, hey, you use this amount of water. They said, yeah, here's everyone's water. Your name, your address, this is how much water you used. If you're above this line, you went above it, right? You went above that 13 gallons per person per day. Go publicly shame these people. And that's what people did. Now, am I going to say that fights broke out? Am I going to say that beatings happened and occurred when somebody went double their water usage? Cape Townians said, if I am being restricted, so are you. Needless to say, people stopped going above and beyond their water usage. Another thing that the city did was they implemented this everywhere. It wasn't just a residential thing. It wasn't just a home-based thing. It was everywhere. So if you went to the city parks, these taps were cut off of the sinks, the hand washing stations, the sinks. You had hand sanitizer, Germex. You could still flush the toilet, but that was about it. If you went to the local hotels, you could not fill up their bathtub. If you wanted to soak, good luck soaking. because the hotel bathtubs were cut off from the taps. Now you could still take a shower and still flush the toilet, but that was about it. If you went into the city center, they had a little museum like thing set up that showed how much water was left in the reservoir and showed how much water a person used during the day and what this saved them. So again, we're talking 13 gallons of water per person per day. Now, it wasn't just the city officials who had to change their lifestyle. It was also the Capetonians, the residents, who had to change their lifestyles. So a lot of people set up reservoir tanks. But if it's not raining, that reservoir ain't being filled up. If it's not raining, that tank, that 5-gallon bucket, that trash can that you've set up under your gutter is not being filled up. So it's a good idea in theory, but it's a little too late for that. Now when the next rainstorm comes in, hey, great, you're full. But until then, what type of lifestyle changes do these people make to drop from 100 gallons of water a day to 13 gallons of water? The first one was for home-based use. If it's yellow, let it mellow. That means if you pee, but you don't poop, you don't flush it. If you poop, you flush the toilet. That is the only time. So again, the average toilet uses 1.5 to 2 gallons per flush. If I use the bathroom 5 times at 2 gallons, that's 10 gallons a day out of my 13. If I only poop once, that is 2 out of the 13. The second thing that people did was that they started taking hoe bass, whore bass, baby white bass, whatever you want to call it, okay? So instead of getting in the shower, turning it on, enjoying the nice sudsy, soapy water, right, having a good time for, hell, 20 minutes, 30 minutes for some people, you get in with a bowl. The bowl has a sponge or some sort of a rag. You have a bar of soap, lather up. You have one bowl for clean, you have one bowl for your soapy water. So you would wash up with the clean water first, then you would hit the dirty soapy water, and then you'd wash yourself and then go back to the clean water. Another thing that people did was they washed their dishes with a spraying system. Now, something like you would spray pesticides or spray paint with, right? A little hand pump with water in it, and then they would spray it. That's how they would wash their dishes. My sink has 2 sinks. Each one holds 6 gallons. Now, I fill one up, I put the dirty dishes in there, I fill the other one up, I put clean water in there, boom, 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 right? But that's 12 gallons out of my 13 per day just to wash some dishes. And we wash dishes 2 to 3 times a week at least. So what they would do is they would knock all the food off. They would hit some sort of a sprayer like you would see for pesticides or you would see for weed killer, Roundup or something, one of those plastic sprayers with a pump. They would build some pressure on it, boom, 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 hit it with water, soap, put it on the clean side, spray it with that clean water again. Did this save water? Yeah, I would say so, because you're not filling up 2 tubs of 6 gallons apiece. You're filling up the one 3 to 4 gallon container and using that water to clean your dishes. One of the bigger things was water collecting systems. So all that water that we talked about earlier, from the sink, the shower, right, the bathing, all of that is gray water. You might not want to drink it, you might not want to use it for bathing, but you can still use it to flush the toilet. So what I saw was a lot of people undoing their sinks. And so when they would pour the water down the sink, it would go into a 5-gallon collection bucket. You would use that to flush the toilet. What the poor people would do is they would walk to a local water dispensary area where it had water just kind of coming out of a tap. You could fill it up. It had no limit, right? You could get water from there and then walk it back home. You know those people that would carry their jugs on top of their heads? Think something similar to that, all right? They would go to a water source, fill it up, walk it back home. The problem with this was that because it was a free water source, every Tom, Dick, and Harry was trying to use that water source, which meant that you had to stand in line for hours to fill up your container. Now, if I'm standing in line for hours and I've got one trip there and one trip back, you best bet I'm going to carry as much water as I can. And that's what people were doing. That's the thought of everybody. So instead of 1 gallon a jug water, they were filling up 5, 10, 15 gallons of water, right? The 5-gallon buckets or a 6-gallon drum or a 7-gallon jerry can. They were filling up these large, massive containers and then moving on. Great, it's free. It doesn't count for your 13 gallons, but you're standing in line for an hour, 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours to get that free water source. So since this event, they have completely changed, right? They did get enough water to fill up the reservoir. They stopped doing day 0 issues. They put the taps back on the water sources. Hey, fantastic, great. But for a year, it was a massive change, and people had to change how they acted and the way that they did things, or they were going to die. It boils down to that. If you don't make a change, your town is going to run out of water. And again, this is not a small town. It's a town of like 2 million people. So this was a large touristy destination place that was going to run out of water. They changed, they fixed it, problem solved. What about in your case? What about if it was your town that implemented that? We have water main breaks at least once every 4 or 5 months. And they say, hey, don't drink the water, or hey, boil it before you drink it, or hey, we're shutting the water off for a week or two. What am I supposed to do for that? Right? I've got a couple gallons of water saved up, but then what? Do I have to go down to the lake and fill up my jugs? Do I have to go in town and hope that there's a water stream opened? Ask yourself, what would you do in this situation? Now, some people are going to sit back and say, that'll never happen. Yeah, we've been in a drought, but we've been using water all we want to, and no one's been saying anything. Well, what if it wasn't water? What if it was money, right? You sit down on your family budget, you go, we have $13 a day to spend per person. Some people will say, hell, $13, I don't spend that in 2 weeks. Other people are going to say, $13, I spend that just on breakfast, just on my morning coffee. What do you mean it's $13 a day? But what if that was your scenario? You lost your job, you sit down, your reservoir is full, but you know it's going to empty unless you fill it back up, and you say, $13 is the amount of money we can spend per day. And we got to account for things like electricity and gas and food. Now you see the changes, right? Now instead of that $12 Starbucks drink, you make coffee at home. Instead of going out to eat every meal, you start making sandwiches at home. What if instead of money and water, it was energy? The power company says, hey, look, y'all have had a ton of people come through the area, and we do not have the amount of energy needed to support everybody, so we are limiting you to 13 kilowatts of power per day, per household. California has rolling brownouts and blackouts every single year because of supply and demand on the grid. They don't have enough power to support their grid. What if it happened to your place? They said 13 kilowatts a day. Now, some people would say, hell, I use like 2 kilowatts because it's only me living there. Not a problem. I'm good to go. But other families say 13 kilowatts a day. Hell, I'm using 24 kilowatts a day. What would you do to make the change? Again, for this scenario, it was 13 gallons of water per person per day. I think if it was just me, hey, not that big of a deal, but because I have a family, I got 4 kids to wash. Me and my wife take showers every couple days. We got laundry. My God, do we have laundry, dude. We're washing 4 and 5 loads of laundry a week. If this happened, then what? Maybe we reuse the same towel 2 and 3 times until it gets moldy and then we wash it? Maybe we let the kids wear the same clothes 4 and 5 days in a row because we can't afford to wash it? Makes you question it, right? But anyway, again, I like learning from history, and this was a big event in their history. And yeah, let me know what you guys would do if you were limited to 13 gallons of water per person per day. That's all I got for today's video. Y'all stay safe out there. T2 out.